All right, so this video is going to be about fear and anxiety, and specifically how we can be free from the grip of fear, free from the grip of anxiety. Because, at a very fundamental level, fear and anxiety are not bad. There's nothing wrong with them fundamentally. They serve a valid purpose for keeping us safe physically, emotionally. But we can easily get taken away by fear, by anxiety. And that sucks. I can say that firsthand. I used to have a lot of trouble with anxiety. It was crippling, actually. It was just so tight, so contractive. And it kind of handicapped me, again, socially, in school, when I was in school. And I can say firsthand that it is completely possible to gain insight into the experiences of fear, of anxiety, in a way that liberates us from them. I'm going to do my best in this video to show you kind of how that works. So, first we need to understand what is fear. Fear is an emotional experience. There's a mental component as well. And here, just window. Um, so fear has a physical component. It has a mental component. When I say that, I mean you can feel fear in the body. There's tightness in the chest, maybe a tightness in the stomach. Um, and then there's a mental component, which is the stories about why I'm afraid. And so the mental component, the stories, this is where we can get really lost and get really, again, hypnotized really by fear. Because the mind will come up with these stories about, oh, if I don't make X amount of money, then I'm not going to pay rent, then I'm going to be homeless, and then I'm going to die on the streets, and then my life's a failure, something like that. And it can just go and go and go. And in a sense, the mind will just find evidence to support its hypothesis, which is, um, I'm anxious. That must mean something scary is, you know, going on, or there's something I need to be afraid of in the future. And it's sort of like a confirmation bias where the mind starts to find supporting evidence to prove what it thinks it knows. So when we get caught in this web of mind, it is, again, it can really be debilitating. And you'll notice more of the scary, anxiety provoking thoughts cause somatic experience, more tightness in the chest, more shortness of breath, more, maybe dissociation. And this sort of works as a feedback loop where the more tightness in my chest there is, the more overwhelming the somatic experience, the more my mind starts to try to explain it and also try to fix it. And this is where unconsciously, usually, all the energy in our bodies goes up into the mind because we're like, oh, let me try and figure this thing out. Um, which is, again, not inherently wrong, but it easily can detach us from the body, from the soma and the wisdom in the body. And so, also, third component is a contraction of the psyche, of the whole being. It's you can feel it. When you're afraid, there is a tightening of the mind, body, the chitta, that's the heart mind. Um, it all kind of shrinks and gets very tight. And interestingly, too, so when the mind contracts like that, or we could say when the psyche, when the being contracts like that, these stories that it operates from become very solid and real due to the contraction. When we contract, we tighten around stories, narratives, beliefs, and create something that seems very solid, something that we can easily look at and say, that's true, that's real. Not because it's inherently true or real, but because we've tightened around it. So I hope that makes sense. That shrinking of the psyche due to fear causes us to solidify narratives where, yes, this is objectively true. Objectively speaking, I'm not making enough money and I won't be able to pay rent. And when I won't be able to pay rent, I'm going to be homeless and my life's going to be a failure. All of those stories are just stories. They have no objective truth. But we create an experience that feels very real due to the presence of fear, which again contracts mind, body, psyche, story. It all gets very tight. So that's necessary to know that when we're in the grips of an anxiety attack, or really afraid, um, just we can just notice how tight are my stories right now, meaning how flexible are they, or how unflexible are they? Um, how much am I clinging to one view, recognizing there's many views we can hold? Just with that example, like, who says that it would really suck to be homeless? It might be hard, it might be painful, but again, it doesn't objectively mean it's going to be that bad. But we make these assumptions, and from those unquestioned assumptions, we start to build anxiety, fear off of really nothing that needed to be feared necessarily, at least feared in an unhealthy way. And again, I want to point to the fact that fear is not bad. And actually, I don't think there's a way to be a human being or be embodied and not have fear. I would say actually there probably is a way, but I don't know if it's super desirable. The key is understanding fear, knowing what it is, knowing how to relate to it, um, so that we're not, again, in the grips of it. We're not hypnotized by it. We're not in we're not controlled by fear. We control our experience, not fear. That's the goal. And so this brings me again to uh, the key point of working with fear is staying in the body. Because when we escape into the mind, trying to fix anxiety, um, then we easily get lost, and it just spins and spins and spins, and there is no end. And this is where panic attacks come from, because there's no solution up here necessarily. And interestingly, the solution actually is in the body. It is in staying with the experience of anxiety, however that manifests. It could be the shakes, it could be tightness in the chest, it could be pit in the stomach, um, because that is actually the beginning of opening, accepting, being with anxiety as it is. And it can feel very overwhelming at first when you let the guard down, when you stop numbing or distracting. Um, but this is the path of purification, purifying our our minds, our experience through familiarity. Familiarity with, again, tightness in chest, shortness of breath. These are just physical experiences. You're not going to die. You're not going to die. You can hold them. And if you can't hold them alone, there are trained professionals who can help you with this, or friends. Um, you know, finding support so that you can start to touch into these things in a skillful way, not so that it overwhelms you, but so that you slowly start to develop a familiarity with this experience of fear, of anxiety. So when we are in tune with the body, when we move down, move awareness back into the body, um, as opposed to the mind or dissociation, um, we can be with these things. And that is absolutely essential, because the body is our tether to the present moment. It's a tether to direct experience, where the mind, it goes, it goes, it goes, and we can be completely disconnected for days. So being in the body, we're tethered to the present moment. And so once we're there, it's one thing to be there and say, oh, this sucks. Yeah, it does. But that's when we actually can, over time, start to understand our relationship to that experience, to that physical somatic experience of anxiety. So we start by feeling the body, but not stopping there, because if we just feel the body and don't change anything, it won't necessarily change. Sometimes it can. Sometimes it can, simply through exposure. But there is a second component, which is understanding how I'm relating to this experience, and asking the question, is my relationship to anxiety actually contributing to the anxiety itself? Am I potentially building this experience of anxiety? So we ask that question, am I? And what we'll find, so this is, a spoiler alert, what we'll find is that anxiety lives off of resistance. It completely exists due to the presence of resistance in the psyche. I am resisting something. Where there is no resistance, there is no anxiety. And I mean, at a deeper level, it goes, yeah, I won't even go there right now. But resistance, in a sense, creates suffering, including anxiety. So we can ask, am I resisting this anxiety? Am I? And it seems natural, of course, we'll want to push away an uncomfortable experience. This is where we have to lean into discomfort and kind of go into a paradoxical sort of relationship with anxiety where, yes, it sucks, but I'm actually not going to try to change it. It reminds me of kind of Dante's Inferno, where to escape hell, you got to crawl through Satan's mouth. Or I think it's something like that. And that metaphor is perfect because you got to do that thing you absolutely don't want to do. That's accept that this is how things are right now. Overwhelming anxiety. Okay. Oh, shit. So, again, when we can open to the experience of anxiety, it will be overwhelming at first because we probably aren't practiced in that skill of opening to fear, opening to anxiety. But it won't last forever. It won't. And again, with the kind of curiosity necessary to really understand that experience, if you have that openness and that curiosity to just explore, what is anxiety? How did it get here? Then we can find insight, understanding about that experience that again starts to deconstruct it. Where, oh, I'm resisting this physical experience of anxiety. So we start with that. I'm resisting this. Can I open to this and just marinate in the pain? If you exercise, if you meditate, you're familiar with pain. It's it's not bad necessarily. There can be something very useful about pain, and that includes emotional pain. So anxiety. So first we sit with the anxiety, and then the anxiety will inevitably start to fade. It'll sort of be like a bell curve where at first you open to the anxiety and it gets more intense. You're like, oh, this fucking sucks. Why am I doing this? You gotta trust the system at that point. Trust this path. It'll go up and then it'll hit a peak where this is as bad as it gets. And then there is this beautiful sort of decline in the physical and mental component of anxiety, where it is what it is, and I'm okay with it. This experience has a place. And when we relate to it like that, the bell curve decreases. And you have weathered the storm, weathered the wave. And this is a skill and it builds like a muscle. The more that you practice this, the stronger it gets, the deeper your resilience to fear, to anxiety, to pain. And this is a skill that you can take with you your whole life. I cannot understate that enough. This is absolutely one of the most important things a person can practice and become skilled at. Because let's just examine how anxiety and fear shapes how we relate to life and what we engage in and what we don't. Well, how would we live if we weren't afraid of pain, if we weren't afraid of fear, if we weren't afraid of anxiety, if we could just, if it comes, it comes, and I'm not afraid. It changes everything. It really does. So I think this is an absolutely essential skill to have. And again, so once we deconstruct the experience of anxiety when it's present, we can actually start to see, how did this experience come to be? Where did this anxiety come from? How did it get to be so intense? And you'll see too that the whole, manifestation of anxiety is built off of resistance. So what am I resisting in my life? What am I saying is not okay? What am I afraid of? Because fear is just a flavor of resistance. I'm afraid of something that I don't like happening. I'm afraid of losing something, someone that I do like. Fear, resistance. We can let go of resistance altogether. We really can, at deeper and deeper levels, subtleties, I guess you could say. Um, Understanding, where is there resistance? Where is there, where am I not allowing life? And then can I loosen my grip a little bit? Loosen my grip on trying to be perfect, on having the perfect life, on making everybody happy. Can I loosen my grip and see what happens? Will the sky fall? And, will I be homeless? Will I lose my partner? We'll see. But we have to understand, no matter what happens, in a sense, it is only as bad as you make it. It's only as bad as you resist it. So, this is a brief video on working with fear and anxiety, and just this is only one lens also. So this is sort of like a somatic experiencing lens tied in with, like, inspired by Buddhism and emptiness. But I will tell you that it works. It works for some people. There are many lenses. This worked for me. So I'll probably throw some more videos on anxiety. Just kind of exploring different lenses, like, IFS, radical emptiness, emptiness of self, emptiness of suffering. Those are definitely juicy topics, but yeah, this was one video. I hope it is useful.